One of the biggest goals that we have for the Force Unleashed is to re-envision the Force. To really grab the concept of the Force like you saw in the movies and take it so amped up and out of control that it works really well in a video game, making you feel like the most badass Jedi in the universe. A perfect example is lightning. When you actually see the apprentice totally amped up in lightning, not only does it go purple and crazy, but he can actually nuke many, many guys, more than you've ever seen in a movie before. In the same manner, we can use the Force grip, for example. Instead of just gripping an X-Wing like you saw in Dagobah, we really amped up the power to the point where the apprentice can actually pick up many objects at the same time. And then if he wants to, he can actually throw lightning at them. And so now they're all charged up like a cannonball. And each one of these experiences just really elevates the action of the Force that's really well represented in this kind of medium. My favorite part of the combat for the Force Unleashed 2 is that the sabers actually matter. You now carry 2 instead of 1. And not only does that look impressive because you have twice as much weaponry as you used to, but it really allowed us to evolve the combat system and the way you interact with the enemies.
The number of hits you're able to achieve on a given target are obviously much faster now with being able to do 2 hits. You'll also be able to do a dual lightsaber throw. We've added the ability to do dismemberment. You're able to decapitate guys now.
The changes we made to the lightsaber really lend a lot more to the realism and immersion that the player will experience in the game. It's not just like a baseball bat. It's really going to be much more like what Star Wars fans have seen in the movies.
We've also added some unique Force powers that didn't exist before.
We have a brand new Force power in the game, which is sort of an unleashed version of Jedi Mind Trick. We've sort of reimagined it for the Unleashed franchise.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
We took it to the next level. You basically get a trooper and you turn him into your ally, and what he'll do is he'll turn around to attack other troopers. They actually might get so confused that they'll try to commit suicide.
I can't do this anymore!
They go so crazy, you can actually have them go into a bunch of other troopers and explode, and they all just fly into the air because it's basically a bomb. So another way that we really expose the amped up, out of control Force powers, the re-envisioning the Force, is with Force Fury. All of your powers go, if they were 10, now they're 100. For example, you can actually grab ATSTs and crush them into a ball and then use lightning against them and turn that into a cannonball that you can throw against other enemies. Or you can use another power we call Force Repulse. When you let it go, it literally disintegrates all the guys and turns them into vapor.
With this Force Fury mode, they really give this new definition to what it feels to be unleashed in the game.
Another feature that we really worked on to improve the interaction with the world is the combat system from a perspective of targeting. Our targeting system has been cleaned up so that as you play through it, the choices that you have to grip things or to target things or to throw things is much more accurate than it used to be. That, tied with a much more improved camera, really allows you to interact with the environments and with the enemy setups. We wanted to make sure that enemies that you fought mattered.
We've specifically designed enemies not only to have very different visual characteristics, but also we've designed very specific units to have resistances to saber combat. We have units that have very specific resistances to Force powers.
As you progress and become more and more powerful, you will find more and more powerful enemies. For example, the Gorog, this big ape monster type creature that you have to use very specific Force powers in order to defeat. Another one to note is this big Titan spider, 4-legged creature that very much attacks you in ways that are very different than the Gorog, so you have to use different Force powers to defeat him. It's amazingly fun to actually grab the Force and play with it like it's never been done before.
With the Force Unleashed franchise as a whole, we really are trying to make superhero games in many ways. We have this big over-the-top action, these giant set pieces, but then we have these characters that are very mythic and very flawed. In the first Force Unleashed, we introduced a brand new character, codenamed Starkiller. This was Darth Vader's secret apprentice. He was charged with hunting down the last of the Jedi, but ultimately he ended up forming the Rebel Alliance, so he's become a really important part of the Star Wars mythos.
You have served your purpose well, my apprentice, but I have no further use for you. Kill him.
TFU2 really picks up with him realizing that, you know what, maybe this isn't exactly correct and I need to figure out who I am, and he escapes from Vader.
What happened? Where is he?
He's not just a one-note villain, he is more broken than evil, and he definitely has moments of vulnerability as well.
Confused you have become.
Weak and misguided.
Hide not from yourself.
If TFU 1 was the hunt to kill stuff, TFU 2 is the chase to find out who you are.
Will I ever see you again?
We really wanted to focus more on the main character's kind of personal journey, this notion of what it means to be a villain or a hero and to be human even. Starkiller kind of embodies that. He has all the power of a classic superhero, and then he also has this great Star Wars mythos.
To have a self-identity that he's searching, but at the same time do over-the-top crazy things like crush ships and throw them against stormtroopers is something that's really unique to this experience.
We've really taken the notion of the Force Unleashed to a new level. In the first game, we gave you a large arsenal of powers and your lightsaber, and we had very interactive environments. Well, in the Force Unleashed 2, you have access to a wider palette of powers, including Jedi Mind Trick, the ability to wield 2 lightsabers. We also have this new mode called Force Fury, which allows you to amp up all your powers to their kind of maximum range. Force Push might hit somebody like a cannonball, but Force Fury will take out an entire group of stormtroopers, and it is a massive kind of re-envisioning of the Force.
Where we grab the Force powers, and if they were at a level 10, now on TFU2 they're a level 100. We want to re-envision the Force. We want to re-envision Star Wars. We want to take what everybody knows in the movies and take that way out of control.
In many ways, we're viewing The Force Unleashed 2 as kind of like our Empire Strikes Back.
You have a purpose, a destiny.
This is an even darker story than the first game, and I think fans are going to be very surprised by the way that we end Force Unleashed 2. It will cause them to look at the original trilogy in kind of a new way and leave them speculating and guessing about what might happen next. From the outset, we knew that we wanted story to be one of the big pillars for the Force Unleashed franchise. It really heightens that sense of immersion. It gives you a character that you can relate to. It puts you into the story. And we wanted to tie into the overall saga as well. What made the first film so successful wasn't just the special effects or the fantastic setting. It really was the fact that that was the wrapper around a really compelling mythic story.
Vader is luring you back to him.
Yes, I know.
When The Force Unleashed released, we were very excited that the story got accolades and awards, and we really took that seriously and evolved the story for The Force Unleashed 2. The fact that George allowed us to fill the gap between Episode 3 and 4 gave us not only a challenge, but also a responsibility to the fans. So the story that fits between Episode 3 and 4 has to make sense.
It is a time period that hasn't been very well defined in the past. Darth Vader is hunting down the last of the Jedi, the Rebel Alliance is really fledgling, and the Empire is really locking down control of the whole galaxy.
Force Unleashed 1 ended where Secret Apprentice saved the rebellion by sacrificing himself, and we thought that was a great place to take off. The big question now has become, how did that happen? The story for The Force Unleashed 2 really evolved. It became a lot darker, a lot grittier, and most importantly to me, a lot more personal. And we decided to allow the apprentice to grow up and to become much more self-aware. And he went from being Secret Apprentice to somebody that we actually call a name, Starkiller. He's actually a person. And he introspectively is trying to figure out why he keeps doing what he's told, and actually decides that maybe he shouldn't be doing what he's told. He should actually go out there and pursue his own identity and figure out who he is.
Because we start Starkiller off as allegedly a clone, and a clone who's going insane, immediately we already have a little darker tone to the story as well. So you're not really sure where he's going to end up, whether or not he's a clone, whether or not he's going insane. We've really focused on making him a little bit less about the big galactic struggle and more about this character and what his motivations are and what he's going through.
You will return to me and give yourself to the dark side.
Every time we do a Star Wars game, we're always trying to expand the Star Wars universe. So Force Unleashed is a great franchise because for fans of Star Wars, you're able to play it and see things that are familiar to you. You're able to see Darth Vader and learn more about him. You're able to see Princess Leia and what she's doing during this time period and see the formation of the Rebel Alliance and how the galaxy is evolving. But because we're always expanding everything and adding new things, you also get to encounter new characters. So Starkiller has evolved and become, a hero in his own right. We wanted to continue the story of Starkiller, Darth Vader, Juno Eclipse, and General Coda. But with Force Unleashed 2, Boba Fett and Yoda play really key pivotal roles that are instantly recognizable to fans and make the story stronger.
What's really cool about that is that it resonates to some of the things that you might remember for The Empire Strikes Back, where, for example, Luke was trying to figure out his self-identity, and he goes to Dagobah and meets the incredible Yoda.
I'm looking for someone.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say.
And goes to the Cave of Evil and uses that experience to get to the other side, much more aware, at least much more aware about what his next direction needs to be. We did something very similar for The Force Unleashed, too, where Starkiller, in the hunt for his identity, ends up in Dagobah.
He, of course, comes across Jedi Master Yoda. However, he doesn't know who Yoda is. Yoda is just this kind of creature that he discovers guarding what we call the Cave of Evil, this place of immense power on Dagobah, where Luke Skywalker had his vision of Darth Vader in Empire Strikes Back.
Something lost. A part of yourself, perhaps.
Yoda kind of helps Starkiller figure out the next steps in his journey, really encourages him to go into the Cave of Evil and have a vision of his own in order to continue on his journey and figure out where Juno Eclipse might be. Early in the story process, one of the designers suggested, well, what if Boba Fett tried to spirit Juno Eclipse away? We know from a lot of the expanded universe that Boba Fett has been working for the Empire, and it made sense that Vader would hire somebody like Boba Fett to help him track down Starkiller.
Boba Fett plays a key part in making sure that somehow Darth Vader gets to find Starkiller again.
One of our mantras has been familiar but new. We really want to put elements into the game that feel familiar but put a new spin on them or introduce things in a new way. I think that as a very young medium, we really haven't scratched the surface in terms of the types of stories we can tell and how different those stories can be from things like film or novels, and that's really exciting too. So I'm really glad that we're constantly focused on telling new stories and finding new ways to tell those stories too.